Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to another segment of Hanging with the Boss Lady. I am your host, the Boss Lady herself, Cheryl Jones, aka that little old country girl, talking to you all the way from Concord, North Carolina. How are you doing today? I pray that each and every one of you is doing well. As for me, listen, I am blessed and highly favored, and I'm super excited to have you join me today. Thanks in advance. We have a wonderful show ready for you today, filled with lots of good information and tips. You ready? Let's go. Okay, let's get started. I want to ask you a question. Would you say that in case of emergencies, you are prepared to handle or conduct yourself in a manner that would ensure your safety? Good question. I and my daughters have been talking recently to my grandchildren and making sure that we know that in cases of emergencies, they know what to do and where to go and how to conduct themselves. I think this is a very, very critical issue that should be discussed among members of every household. It is very important for us to know that in these days and times, any and everything can possibly happen. Listen, when I was growing up, we did not have school shootings like they have now. When I was growing up, they did not have terrorists attacking us on our own ground in our country. When I was growing up, we did not have children being snatched off the street with their parents holding their hands. There are so many different types of emergencies and situations that are happening that we must speak of and make sure that the members of our families are aware of what to do in case of emergencies. Now, of course, I mentioned some very far out emergencies, things that we pray God never have to experience. But I was just saying it for the shock effect of it to let you know that there are a lot of bad things happening. And there are a lot of situations that occur that we may possibly face in our lifetime. And we have to know what to do in cases of those situations. So today we're going to just talk about being prepared to handle emergencies. Let's start by giving the definition of the word emergency, okay? An emergency is a situation that poses an immediate risk of health, life, property, or environment. Most emergencies require urgent intervention to prevent a worsening of the situation. An emergency can come up and right away you have to do something about it or it's going to get worse. It's going to blow up into something even bigger. And sometimes we, the ones who are immediately experiencing that emergency, can't do anything about it, and they have to call for outside help. We have to call for the police or for EMTs, or we have to, call for someone who can do more than we can at that particular time. So know that an emergency is something that can pop up anywhere at any time involving anybody. And a lot of times when we hear about emergency, you think that, okay, it has to be outside. No, my dear. Emergencies can occur in the house. It can occur right while you're sitting in your own living room or lying in your bed. An emergency can come up, and we you and I and everyone in your household should be taught or should know what to do in case of an emergency. Now, it's very important, especially to me, that young people know about the risks and dangers of not knowing what to do in case of an emergency, simply because with the temperature of the world today, I see the children as the most vulnerable and the most at risk of being targeted or harmed in cases of emergency. And I say that because my grandchildren are in school, and I have grandchildren in school from kindergarten all the way to college. I have 12 grandchildren, and they're all in school. A lot of them have already graduated out of school, thank God, safely. But for the ones that remain, every time I hear that there's been a school shooting, my heart shatters, and I pray hard for the parents. Of course, in situations like that, they don't want to hear prayer. They want to hear that their children are okay. But in situations where our children have to leave us every day and go to the institution of learning and possibly face an emergency situation, they have to know what to do to protect themselves. My friend, I cannot impress upon you how great a need it is for all of us to know what to do in case of emergencies. Have you heard lately that aliens are among us? Have you heard about the rise in children being snatched? Have you heard about the rise in school shootings, shootings in malls? And it seems like everywhere the temperature of the world has reached a boiling point. And we must be vigilant. We must be careful. And we must know what to do to protect ourselves. I've heard even in my neighborhood that there are people who go around checking the car door handles. We have the ring lights. So the neighbors, they check the ring lights from time to time, and they see that during the night hours, individuals walk around and check to see if the doors of cars have been unlocked. They have even seen individuals come up to their doors and try the doorknobs to see if the doors were left open. I have seen instances on social media where children are in the stores with their parents, and someone will just walk by, snatch the kid, and try to run like they're standing there alone. There are so many different situations. And of course, I know you have all heard about the various shootings in places of in schools and in retail departments, in restaurants, in places of business, in clinics. And it seems like the chaos of the world has reached a level to the point where you feel unsafe to even advance out of your place of safety, which is supposed to be your home. Because all these things are happening, and because during the time that these things occur, we may get separated from the members of our family, and we need to know what to do. If your children are in school, they need to know how to follow protocol. If you're in a movie theater and shots begin to ring out, what are you going to do? If you're in a mall, what are you going to do? All of these things need to be discussed because, like I said, the temperature of the world has reached a boiling point, and we all must know what to do in case of emergency. And also, like I said before, It does not always have to be something on the outside. What if you're sitting in a house and someone at home suddenly collapses down, and your children or someone else in the home needs to know what to do in case of emergency? Emergencies are something that is not planned. It's sort of like uh, an accident. An accident is something that's just like the word. It's an accident. It was not planned. And you can say, I'm going out, I'm going to take a ride in the car, I'm getting ready to go have an accident. I may come back, but I may not. It's not something that you plan for. When you go out to your different locations, wherever it is that you're traveling to, you pray. You say, Lord, please cover me with your protecting blood and favor. Let the angels encamp round about me. Let me reach my destination safely and return home safely. You don't say, okay, God, I'm getting ready to go get in the car. You can have, in about 20 minutes, let me have a real juicy accident. Just make it really bang up. That's not something that we plan for. An accident is something that is not planned but can happen. The same thing with an emergency. An emergency can pop up just like that. And you're walking along and you have no idea that in the next 10 seconds, chaos is about to erupt. In the event of chaos erupting, we all must know what to do. I have experienced a few emergencies in my life, but the one that sticks out the most is when we experienced the tragedy of the 9/11 terrorist attack. I was working for the Transit Authority at the time, but it was my day off, thank God, because I was stationed to work directly under the Twin Towers. I worked in Canal Street, and the Twin Towers were right upstairs over my subway station. But that day, my children were in school, and they were scattered in different schools over the city. My twins was in a middle school, my foster children was in an elementary school, and my other foster daughter was in high school in Flushing. And the first thought that came to my mind was, I have to get my children home. And I pushed all thought of staying in the house where, quote unquote, it's supposed to be safe. I only thought about getting to my children. And I went to the school, and many parents, I found out, thought the same way. And they attempted to dissuade us from taking the children home. The staff in the school told us that the principal's orders were that no children should leave. However, we thought otherwise, and we, all as one, went upstairs to the classrooms and collected our children and brought our children home because we did not know how the day was going to continue to unfold. And I went to all three schools and I collected my children. And let me tell you, it was a harrowing thing because traffic was chaos. There was confusion, fear, anger, and desperation everywhere. People were rushing. People were not paying attention to the traffic laws. All they were trying to do was to reach their loved ones and to get home. And thank God we made it through that horrible, horrible time. And then we came home and we huddled around the television and we continued to watch as the Twin Towers collapsed. It was a horrible day that I will never forget. And in that situation, I remember now that we did not have any kind of plan in effect. We had never discussed, if something happens, get to this place and I'll come there and I'll find you. There was no talk ever of what to do in an emergency situation, but I assure you wholeheartedly, we talked after that day of where to be, and we found landmarks in the areas that they were in case of any sort of situation like that again. I would know where to go to get them. And understand this, like I said before, there are so many things happening today, so many things that the weak at heart find hard to handle. But we cannot live and walk in fear. We must be vigilant. We must be prayerful. We must be smart. And we must plan. Let me read you a scripture about being prepared for emergencies. It's going to come from Proverbs 22:3. It reads, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." So, be prudent, be smart. Open your eyes, open your ears, pay attention as you go here and there. Watch. Just like when you're driving, you don't just drive for you, you drive for everybody on the road. Me, when I'm driving, my vision is on 10 cars ahead of me. When the cars all the way down start putting on their red lights, I know that we're going to start slowing down. I don't wait until the car in front of me throws on his brakes and then I see that everyone in front of him has already stopped. You have to pay attention. Look ahead, look around you. Be vigilant at all times. It is so important. In order for you to survive, that's something that you absolutely must do. So now, before we end this segment, I want to just talk to you and leave you a few little tips of how to make a plan and the things to look out for when you are preparing the members of your household and your family how to act in case of an emergency. Some of the questions that you have to ask is, how will I receive my alerts and warnings? And understand that sometimes, especially young people, if they don't already have it on their phones, they make sure you push the notification so that you can receive messages of impending danger in your immediate area. And then you have to talk to them about what is their shelter plan. Let's say if there's something like a tornado, where are you going to go in your house if you find out that there's a tornado sighted in your immediate area and you need to take shelter? You don't go and stand in the doorway. You don't go and stand by the window. You go in the bathroom and you lie down in the tub and you put something on top of you, okay, to protect yourself from falling debris. And then let's say that your children are out at the park or they're at school or they're, at the mall or something, and something comes down and they have to evacuate and everyone is running around hysterical. What do? And maybe the phone lines are down and they can't call you. Know the evacuation route. Find a place, a landmark that would be accessible to them wherever they go, and that you will be able to get there and say, if something happens, I can't reach you, that's where I'm going, and I'm going to stay there and wait for you, and let them do the same thing. These are some of the things that you have to discuss, that they have to know, so that in case of an emergency, you're not on either sides of the city running around trying to find each other. All you're going to do is steady make your way to your evacuation route, to your evacuation point, so that you can find each other, because that's what everyone wants to do. In case of an emergency, if everything becomes chaotic, you want to know how to get in touch with your loved ones. And then let's say an emergency happens at home, make sure that your children, and you, of course, the children are not going to be home alone, but what if you suddenly took sick and you're home with a 4-year old or a 5-year old? They love watching Miss Rachel and Blippi and all these things on television. They love getting on their little tablets and they're playing games. Stop for a minute and have every day. Go over it with them. Teach them how to dial 911 in case of an emergency, or and teach them their address so that they can call for help. My mommy fell down and she's not waking up, or my daddy fell down and he's not waking up. Make sure that they are able to call out to someone to get the help that they need. These things are crucial. These things must be discussed. Now, you have different age members in the family. You have to discuss the fact that if there's a situation where everyone has to take flight, who's going to be responsible for who? If you have teenagers and then you have children, the babies, make sure that the teenagers have been designated to one of those children. Grab that kid and run. So you won't just have the child standing screaming and everybody panics and runs and leaves them. And then you say, well, what happened to the baby? These are drills and different things that you should speak on so that everyone is aware of in case of an emergency. And then if you have elderly people in the house with you, who's going to be in charge of helping with the elderly? These are very, very critical points and things that must be discussed. And it's very delicate and sometimes very, very scary, because you may have people who are bedridden and cannot be moved, and you need to know what to do in situations like that. These are just some of the things, food for thought for you to think about so that you can talk to the members of your family if you're out and about, or even if you're home, what to do. You need to talk about what to do if you're in the mall and everyone's running to the exit. What do you do? Do you stand there screaming out, "Mommy, where are you?" No, you have to teach them where to go. Run out with everyone and find that place, and I will come to you. So these are very, very delicate, important, critical things that must be discussed. And of course, everyone has their own way of how they're going to handle an emergency situation. The important thing is make sure you discuss it. Know that if an emergency situation pops up, something has to be done. It has to be handled. And you can't handle it by just plopping down in the middle of the floor saying, I just don't know what to do. You have to keep your wits about you, and you have to be prepared to act in a way that hopefully, prayerfully, will keep you safe from harm. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. And if you have not talked about these things with your family, it might be a good idea for you to bring this topic up. And now I'm going to let you get back to the remainder of your day. I hope that you did enjoy this segment. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. And if you did enjoy it, share it with everyone that you know. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. And until we meet again, may the Lord God bless you real good. Bosslady out.